Here's a record. Okay, today, Friday, April 12th, 3:04 p.m. And what is this, week 5?
Yep.
I'm going to do a quick screen share here and we'll kind of go through this all collectively. Now, for what it's worth, what's on the screen share is, can you see the green and yellow?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't tell me what screen I'm sharing, which is kind of odd. It usually does. All right. So part A, choose 2 of these items to discuss, and I actually picked a 2, which is assess the leadership of one another within this conversation. And I started pointing down what I thought I was. So let's start off with that first question of, do you agree with the ratings that I gave myself, or are they lower or higher?
I would say for all the ones that you gave yourself, like I would say H, ask for feedback. I would say you scored yourself pretty low on that. And especially for I would say you scored yourself low for sure. I would give you like an 8 or 9 on that.
I would give you an 8 on A.
I'll do Rachel first, and then, actually, no, yeah, Rachel. So you said I scored myself low on?
I think for sure H and I.
So H would be?
Let's see, ask for feedback. I would say 9 on both of those.
See, now you're gonna make me cry. And then Laura, you said I rated myself low on A?
Yeah, I would give you an 8 or a 9 on A. I mean, fairly often. I mean, granted, we're only meeting once a week, but I don't see you as saying one thing and doing another. I think that you're pretty authentic with your actions.
Awesome, you're gonna make me cry. What's interesting about feedback and ratings such as this is I always go on the lower end when I do self ratings, because I think it's because I hold myself to a higher standard. So I'm always feeling like I'm not meeting my standard, therefore I tend to go lower.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people do that when rating yourself, because it's like, it's hard to be like, yeah, I'm good at this. Like, this is a strength. Like, it's pretty easy to be like, oh, yeah, I need to work on this. I need to work on that. Like, I think it's easy to do that.
So, Rachel, if you were to rate yourself, what would you do going down the line here?
Well, I actually did, because that's actually the question for B, or part 2, or number 1. So I gave myself 7 for the first, 6, 10, 8, 8, 8, 10, 5, 6, and 9.
6.
Yeah, the K is below. I skipped K2. There's one below that too.
Oh.
Which the text is a little bit smaller. Gives the members of the team lots of appreciation and support for their contributions.
Yeah, I totally missed that one.
Yeah.
I would give myself probably an 8 on that.
Looking at this in the context of our weekly meetings, Laura, what do you think about her ratings? Spot on, off, lower, higher, all zeros?
I would definitely give Rachel at least a minimum of a 9 on K. I think that she does a really good job. I mean, even, the example of her just going through and saying that you ranked yourself low. I mean, I think she, and she was very gracious last week about typing up the report as well. So, yeah, That's feedback. Yeah, but I think she did a good job with her assessment. I would also increase her A as well. I don't see her. I just see A as more like an integrity type question. So yeah, I mean, I think that's like minimum.
What about the seeks out challenging opportunities? Where do you feel, Rachel, that you have a gap?
I feel like I don't necessarily seek out challenges. Like, I think if I'm faced with challenges, like, I can, I'm good at like facing them and overcoming them and everything. But I don't think that I'm a person that, like, it's easy to get comfortable. Like, I don't think I'm a person that like necessarily goes out and is like, what can I do that's challenging, So I feel like that's where I could improve on that one for sure. But I do think like if I'm faced with challenges, I can, I'm definitely capable of like of handling them. So therefore I need to seek them out more.
Cooperative relationships. Yeah, I agree with the 10 there. Praises people for a job well done. I absolutely agree there. Actually, actively listens to diverse points of view. Yeah, I don't see anything here that would be a delta except for the ones that we've already discussed. What about you, Laura?
I ranked myself. Okay, are you ready? I did 9, 6, 8, 8, 6, 7, 8, 4, 6, 5, 8.
See, I'm a geek with numbers, so I start looking for patterns.
I think it's funny that we all ranked like fairly low on J.
Yeah, I think with J, it's more along the lines, and when we get into the whole compare yourself 2 weeks to the last year, I saw a large difference. Well, not a large difference. I saw a difference in J specifically, only because I moved into a different role over the past couple of weeks. I wonder if it's because we, one, are so busy with Jay that we don't necessarily have time to develop our team, or really, as much as I try to coach and mentor folks, I still give myself a 6 because it's not consistent. I don't wake up every morning and say, I'm going to coach and mentor somebody today.
Yeah. I think I would definitely give you at least like an 8 on E, Laura, for actively listens.
I'd have to agree there. Reflecting back the couple examples that you used, talking about work and talking about interacting with the team, and even here, I could see the active listening just through video.
I think I'm good at active listening, but sometimes with diverse points of view, I can get some tunnel vision. So I think the diverse points of view is kind of why I ranked myself a little bit lower. And it's not necessarily from diversity. I'm thinking more of like experience-wise. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult for me to be in those meetings when you're discussing ideas and people are talking about stuff that you did with the company 5 years ago that didn't work out well, which is why the idea was scrapped. And when you've been with somebody for 20 years or the same company for 20 years, that there becomes a pattern of it. So sometimes diverse points of view don't really, they don't seem that diverse. So that was...
I could totally agree with that. Like, I feel like for mine, I was kind of thinking like, I feel like I'm a good listener. Like, I listen to other ideas, but like sometimes when it's like something that I feel like I really know what I'm talking about, I'm like, good idea, but like my idea is better. Like, that's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
I promise, like, I know what I'm doing, but like only in areas where I like feel really confident. I feel like I'm that way,
Yeah.
But, yeah. I try to not be that way.
Yeah,
It's hard.
Yeah.
it's something that I've had to learn over time where, I'm dealing with, and probably you as well, Laura, is people on an international scale, and sometimes tact, skill, people's points of views differ so much, and the cross-cultural also, they differ so much that I kind of have to learn to facilitate the conversation and say, yes, I hear what you're saying. Here's our experience with this. Here are the outcomes with it. And I have to try to dissuade and convince that it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any surprises on how each one of us rated each other and the ratings that each one of us gave each other? I think I just confused myself. I'm definitely surprised that I rated myself a 6 and it got bumped up to a 9.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
It is.
But you do ask for feedback.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's something that I'm not like, so what do you guys think about this? But that's definitely something that you do, Fred.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's probably something that you're not
Aware of?
Yeah, that you're doing it and you're not aware that it's happening.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Is this a good approach or is this about? Just kidding.
See?
Can't help it.
So moving on here, I think that it's very interesting that we're all kind of around the same ballpark, more or less. No one's like, oh yeah, I never do that.
Right.
So I wonder if that's a component of us being in an org leadership type of course or awareness or just experience. Do you think it's just because heightened awareness for being in OGO?
I think it's a good theory. I think that this really spotlights what we need to aim for as we continue our degree program and move throughout our career and accept, more of a leadership role in our organizations. I mean, so obviously asking for feedback is something that I need, that I would need to really kind of take on and experiment with risks. So, I mean, it kind of gives a clear path for what needs to kind of take place. I think part of it is kind of like the whole nurture versus nature, is our degree program helping us in these areas, and what can we do on our own within our own organizations to improve and make a conscious effort where we're scoring low.
Yeah. I feel like it's good too to rank ourselves, because I think all of us probably second guess, we start ranking ourselves low because we're like, oh, I don't know, I don't think I'm good at that, whatever. And then I think it's good to talk about it with other people who have seen you work in a team, scenario, and then compare what we think, so that way you kind of know that you're on track. Like you realize, Fred, that you thought way lower those 2 questions, then we both were no, definitely 3 points higher than you scored yourself. So
right,
kind of a good insight to what other people see and what you think of, what you see of yourself, and then what other people see, because you weren't even aware that you were doing those things. So
yeah, I think it's a combination of self-esteem versus others' perception.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
Laura,
that's huge. I noticed that.
Quick observation for you, Laura. I've noticed that you're still in work mode. I could hear it in your voice and the terminology that you're using, that you're still in work mode.
Yeah, I'm in go mode. But I'm looking at it's really strange because I'm not at the office that often anymore. So it seems really strange.
Yeah.
To be looking at school stuff while I'm in my office setting. It's very weird.
At least you're fortunate to get into a conference room.
Oh no, this is
Open?
kind of. It was supposed to be an office when we merged, and then it was a conference room, and then it was converted to an office when we merged, and then they didn't end up using it as an office space. So now it's just kind of an empty room. It's weird.
So Rachel had picked A4 and A5. Do we want to cover those?
I mean, we could just, I mean, which ones did you pick, Laura?
I just wrote down A6 and I was looking at A2.
Okay.
I mean, I'm good with, I'm really in a weird space right now. So evaluating my coworkers was not something that I was
right.
necessarily really looking forward to doing.
Fred picked 6 too, so I think we should probably just discuss 6 and then. Oh no, you picked 4.
No, I actually picked 6, but
okay.
Rachel's coworkers.
Oh, we can just stick with 6, and then that way we have enough time to do. And then if we have time, we can come back to it.
All right, let's just run through really quickly and capture those in case we were able to come back. Do you have the ratings?
Yeah, let me go.
In case you're wondering how I pulled that table up so quickly, I recreated it in Excel because I'm kind of OCD with documents.
Okay, my first one is 10, 9, 6, 8, 6.
Hold on, let me get rid of these.
Oh.
10, 9, 6.
8, 6, 9, 8, 10, 8, 10. And then apparently I skipped K, so let's see. Let's say 8 for that one.
Pick a card, any card. Okay.
Right.
We will hit this again if time permits.
Okay.
So
you said, Laura, that you hit 6?
I did 6, but now I'm missing my numbers. Okay, so for Tony, I'm missing the last 4. Oh no, here they are.
Let me put a quick extra column in here.
I just want to double check to make sure.
Ooh, no, that's
not. Okay, there they are. Let me know when you're ready.
Just about. Okay, it's not the prettiest thing. Go ahead.
Okay, 8, 8, 10. 9, 10, 6, 10.
9. 4. Hold on. Go back to E.
E. 10. 6. 10. 4. 8, 8, 4.
That's interesting. What I find interesting about it is, that's not what I want. Okay, I'll work on document later.
Oh wait, no, that's not.
For Tony Horowitz?
The last one is an 8. I'm sorry, it's not a 4, it's an 8.
Okay, so we differed a little bit on this one. The personal example, I didn't see a lot of. Holy crap! Oh, look away. I didn't see a lot of expectation setting or him setting personal example in the excerpts that I read. I saw more of a.
I admit I read a lot of the book.
Okay.
I read the excerpts from the latter half of the book, but I had read probably the first half of the book. So,
yeah, I picked up the excerpts and I picked up the back half of the book.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of it had, did you read the part when he was talking to the girls at the airport?
No.
And in Tahiti when he was on the island of Bora Bora?
Not ringing a bell, no.
Yeah, he talks with these women at the airport, and that was why I rated him high on the actively listens to diverse points of view. And he got a ride with this guy, and this guy had this old car.
Around the islands, and then
And he bought the car to replace parts on the new car, so he had basically two versions of the car. So I scored him really high on that, and developing cooperative relationships, because he had to be able to communicate with these people when he was writing the book, and then traveling with Roger.
Oh, see, I didn't think about that. I put it as a 7 because of, and I took into context the his time with the rigging.
The replica?
Yeah, his time with the rigging on the replica. The working closely together with people writing the book, and his conversations with the folks at the school.
Okay. Yeah, he does quite a few different it's interesting because I just can't imagine showing up on an island and talking to people and having them, just take you to their school. And I've been to Tahiti, and that's seriously how the people act there. They're very, very hospitable people. So I know how they act in the islands, but it was still amazing to me to read about him just talking to these people, and they're like, yeah, come along. So
yeah, we were the same on F. Make it a point to let people know about his or her confidence in their abilities. He wasn't outwardly, hey, look at me, so that's why he was more kind of middle ground for me. Ask for feedback.
Oh, I read it differently. I didn't see it as him taking confidence in his abilities. I thought it was
their abilities.
People know about theirs, which I didn't necessarily see a lot of anyways.
Yeah.
So
you're right. I misspoke. Ask for feedback on actions.
Yeah, I didn't really see any of that.
Yeah, that's also why I put him kind of in the midpoint.
And I had a hard time with the experiments with risks. Just doing what he did and seeking challenging opportunities, I just kind of went with 8, because to even be able to do this adventure.
That whole book is the reason why I gave him an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that too.
And then in the forward, the appreciation and support for contributions.
Yeah.
Plus, splattered throughout the text, there was quite a bit of positive affirmation.
Yeah, I was blown away by the book. I mean, and again, I read more than the excerpts. There's so much to do in this class. And then that's kind of the sad thing, is that I wish there was a little bit more, a little less work, so that I could read, because like the excerpt for the American history one that went along with the Captain Cook one, I was really interested in that. It's just, I just didn't have time to balance it out. And it disappoints me, because I love learning from stories. And that's why I'm really excited about a lot of the material in this class.
Yeah, the experiential component of this course is extremely high, which I appreciate as well, because even though I wasn't a fan of going through and reading the Odysseus stuff, the way it tied together to the content and to the leadership challenge, it worked very well.
Yeah.
Did you read the excerpts, Rachel, or did you read beyond them?
No, yeah, I pretty much just read them, and I didn't have much time to read beyond it, so
that's
why I didn't go with this one. I was like, I don't feel, like I really have the full grasp of the book, honestly. I mean, we just have the parts that we had to read. But you guys, for number 1, for sets of personal example, you guys were a little bit different on that one. So Fred, what was your reasoning for 6?
I didn't necessarily, like I said, I started reading the front excerpts, and then when I got towards the end and the extra excerpts, I started to kind of just keep on reading and didn't stop for like an hour and a half. And I didn't necessarily see on the back half of the book anywhere where there was cut and dry personal examples.
Mm-hmm. And then you kind of read more of the first half of the book, right, Laura? So you saw more of that in the beginning.
Yeah, he's talking about like his family and his wife and living in Australia with her. And then he kind of goes off on this adventure and his friend shows up and he's like, hey, I'm going to go with you. And he's like, all right. but he's really inclusive of everything. I mean, he's very, he's inclusive. And he's just not, again, he doesn't come across as a hypocrite on any level. Mm-hmm. Just the way that he explores just the duality of it, him reflecting on his experience in that area, along with his experience on the replica, and then comparing it with Cook's. He just does, Fred's right as far as like, there's not like personal examples where he's like, I did this and expected everybody to,
right,
act in this way. But I think it's just more underlying.
Yeah, there wasn't anything that it was like he's saying this, but he's doing something contrary to that.
Yeah, and he was really kind of going through and talking about Cook's expectations. There's just so many good excerpts from the book. I was like, really, it's crazy. I'm glad that we did the history review because that's usually something that I do before anyways. Mm-hmm. When I'm reading anything, I look at like the historical perspective. And so that just kind of put it in to perspective, and just to have him bouncing back and forth between his time and Cook's time, it was in what was expected. So it was, I can see why Fred would have rated a 6.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot of inference on my part.
That's deep. Part B. So if you read a couple of my discussion posts between week 3 and week 4, I did the same type of thing where I included a delta, and here's what I rated, here's what someone else rated, here's what the delta is. I did the same thing with this one just out of curiosity. And my numbers for the last 2 weeks are somewhat similar to what we have in Part A. So when you did this section, did you see any change between using a short view versus using a long view?
It was kind of hard for me to like, because I feel like I'm like, okay, I was the same person, these past 2 weeks as I have been this past year. So it was kind of hard for me, but I was just like you said, trying to think of it more in short term. Like, what have I done? Like, I was trying to think of more specific examples for the past 2 weeks. And then for the past year, I was just kind of thinking long term, like, okay, we're like more like life direction. Like, okay, I've set an example by taking this direction in my life or something like that. So I had a little bit of difference, but not anything major. I mean, I feel like it wouldn't be super accurate if it was like way different for me. I don't know. So that's kind of how
Were you thinking more personal or professional or academic when you were doing it? Or was it just kind of?
I feel like just
overview. Yeah.
I mean, obviously professional, but also personal a little bit too.
What I found interesting was this delta, the green delta 2, where the last 2 weeks I've actually stepped up a little bit more, mainly because of the whole, I inherited new directs again, so having the directs and trying to figure out a way how to influence them and the new client base I inherited, that whole area of discovery and the whole area of trying to figure out new stuff and new processes. That's where I kind of kicked it up over the past couple weeks. But inversely, you take a look at I, and I actually rated myself lower than over the past year. And the reason why is I think when there's ambiguity and change as what I've been experiencing, I actually lower my risk exposure because I can't handle both the challenging opportunities and trying to get some of the risks and balancing everything out. Even though we could see them as one and the same, they're not really the same because one of them is seeking out that challenging opportunity. The other one is going outside of your comfort zone, at least in my mind, going outside of your comfort zone and doing something you haven't done before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's for experimenting risks. Risk is going outside of your comfort zone?
At least in my head. So over the past year, I gave myself a 7, but then over the last 2 weeks, I dropped it down to a 6 because I'm kind of circling the wagons right now because of all the change and all the ambiguity.
Mm-hmm.
So let's understand all the change and ambiguity, and let's not go outside of our comfort zone until we understand our current state.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting because I feel like current state's always evolving.
Well, yeah, I can see how you could feel that. I think for me, current state is there's probably 80%, and the 20% always evolves. But in time of ambiguity and change, that change could go up to 40, 45%. So therefore, hold in. There's an echo. Can you hear it?
What?
There's an echo.
Oh, I couldn't hear it.
Try that now.
No, still echo. Am I echoing? I am echoing.
Try to turn down my volume. Better?
I'm not hearing an echo, but
Am I echoing? I am echoing.
All right, so we're still.
now you're on mute.
I'm gonna see if I could switch over to. No. Well, let's see if we could jumble through this. Will we get double credit if we're echoing?
We'll get twice the credit.
Hey, it stopped.
Right.
All right, so looking at Rachel, for example, yourself over the last 2 weeks, over the past year, was it a large difference that you saw?
I didn't have a large difference. So I'll just kind of go through the ones that I did have a difference in, I guess. So B seeks out challenging opportunities and tests his own abilities. I gave myself a 7 for over the past year and then a 6 for the past 2 weeks, only because like I was trying to think of an example over the past 2 weeks and I couldn't like think of a great example. But I feel like over the past year, like just with the way that I guess like career wise, like I started a new job and that kind of took like some branching out and doing something newer. And I wasn't happy at my old job, so it kind of took like, you know, I feel like that was kind of seeking out like a new opportunity for me and finding something that I did that I enjoyed. So that's why I gave myself higher for over the past year, because that was in the past year. I also gave myself higher within the past year for praises people for a job well done. I don't know why, honestly. I feel like same. Like I couldn't really think of, you know, an example of where I really like praised somebody in this past 2 weeks for something, you know. And then I gave myself 1 point higher for over the past year on experiments and takes risks, even when there's a chance of failure. Other than that, they were all the same. I feel like that one just kind of, in a way, is similar to B, seeks out challenging opportunities. And yeah, those were my only differences. So I guess I scored myself higher in the past year overall than in the past 2 weeks.
What about yourself, Laura?
I had slight differences. I was mostly the same. But I have a question for Courtney. Or, God, why do I always call you Courtney? I'm sorry, Rachel. I have a question for Rachel.
Courtney's not here, so.
When did you change jobs?
Last year, actually in March.
Okay, and were you going to school at that time as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're like right in the middle of semester and then you change jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a big deal because it's like a big transition, especially when you're learning with your degree program and then learning what you have to do with the job. Was that overwhelming?
It was kind of like, I mean, because honestly, the job that I was at before, like, since I've been in school and everything, the job that I was at before was working retail, and it was just like to, you know, against me as I was going through school, and it just like, I was not happy there. Like it obviously, I don't know, it wasn't for me. Like it just was, I felt like no fulfillment in my job, you know? And so then switching, it was more of a relief because the job that I got is my coaching job now. And so I was just like super happy to be able to find something that was like related to the career field that I was trying to pursue, and something that I enjoyed. And I feel like I was kind of relieved, honestly, because it was something I was good at. Like I felt confident in it. Even though it was something new, like I had never coached a team before. So that was kind of nerve wracking. And there was a lot of new, like, since it's through a high school, there was like, I have to learn like the whole paperwork portion of it that at my studio, I don't have to, do any of that. Like I just go in and teach my classes and that's it. But with the coaching job, it's like I'm in charge of the entire team. Like I have to put in purchase orders, you know, like I have to order everything for them. So it was a whole new aspect, like in that way. So it was like a little bit challenging, and right in the middle of the semester.
So after you went through that and you realized the risk of failure and just the challenging opportunity, just going through that experience, do you think it will help you in the future to make other decisions that might be more challenging or more risky?
Yeah, I think for sure. Like the fact that that I took that step, like that I took that risk and that it paid off, you know, and that I'm still at this job and that it's still like it's something that I ended up loving. I think that kind of gives me like some confidence that, okay, like, cause I've said before, like, I feel like I'm a person, I don't really like change. Like I like things the way they are. And I kind of struggle with change sometimes. But I think it helps me realize like I need to do what's best for me and not just get stuck in my ways, or just because I've been here, I need to stay here. You know, like I can definitely do new things, like try new things. So I think for sure it was a good experience for me.
Okay. Yay. Okay. Are you ready, Fred?
Yep.
Okay, so I just had, mine for the year pretty much the same as above, and then I had a 4-point differentiation on B. I had a 2-point increase on I, and then I had 1-point increase on K.
And that was from?
So for seeks challenging opportunities, and then the experience and takes risks. So after a 20-year career, I actually went on an interview outside of my company this week.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's 4 points.
That was the 4-point increase on seeks challenging opportunities, because it is to test my skills and abilities. It's in a completely different field. There's similar aspects of it, but it's just different. And so, I mean, it would be more towards the end of the semester, but it's it's scary. I mean, I have not applied for a job in 20 years. And so I'm like asking people, like, how does this work? Do I get the offer letter? What do I do? So it's a learning experience for sure, but it is scary. And there's, and the chance of failure still is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then gives team members appreciation and support for their contributions. I feel like I did that a lot over the last 2 weeks with my grandfather passing, and just really telling my family members what I really thought of them in a positive way. Like, I appreciate this about you. I appreciate that you challenge me. And then and with the possibility of leaving on the horizon, I have been just kind of showing a lot of appreciation for people so that I can leave
So
them with
burning any bridges?
Possibly. But I mean, other than that, that's kind of the big thing that's been going on last 2 weeks. I was not really looking forward to that part of the assignment, to be honest with you, because it has been tough for the last 2 years with the merger. But I think it kind of put things in perspective. So it's always interesting when you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. And you're like, hey, this is actually kind of eye-opening. So.
Right.
Yeah, what I found as this, and I was reflecting back on it, and how can I take this and lift it up and put it up against my professional life and, the opportunities I have for leadership. I could see myself doing this exercise probably once a month to give myself a temperature check to see if I'm following or if I'm decreasing in a certain area, as a reminder to pick my game back up.
I think it's commendable that you want to do it once a month. I might do it once a quarter.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I agree. Doing a check-in is advantageous.
Yeah. For sure.
Are we ready for number 2 on B?
I was going to say, I just looked at the time, like, oh.
Yeah, so I actually wrote a book, surprisingly, about customer service surveys. This is what I did with the extra hour that you guys gifted me today. Was I actually started typing up stuff and trying to think about how it all works.
I actually did that too. That's funny.
So basically, I think I put these surveys at times they're pandering to the spirit of customer service, meaning we're so focused on customer service that we're going to survey you on customer service, but from the client perspective, the change may be so minimal that you don't necessarily see, hey, I went to Whataburger and I got this survey on my receipt and I'm going to go take the survey, but you go back through a month later and it's the same Whataburger. So what type of value is it in giving feedback on a Whataburger survey?
Whataburger.
Grilled chicken sandwich with cheese and jalapeno. Oh my God. See, Rachel's lucky because she's got one right there on, I think it's Miller and almost like in just south of Indian School.
Is there one on Miller?
Is it Miller or Watson?
I don't know. I never go there.
Oh, it's Watson.
Identifying choke points. Like, what are they doing over there?
Yeah, so in the spirit of surveys, these should be useful to the organizations themselves, but at times the results are used to punish employees instead of identifying choke points or opportunities for development. So meaning that if you identify some type of thematic approach in a survey, if you have 500 people all saying the same thing, that there's a backup in drive-through, for example, using the Whataburger example.
That's funny.
Then you should be able to take a look and say, oh, 500 people say there's a problem with drive-through. I should probably go and focus on making my drive-through processes better.
Mm-hmm.
because drive-through itself is a choke point.
Choke point.
So the phrase choke point is where like you have a bunch of like things coming to one certain head, and if that one certain avenue gets blocked, everything else can't pass through.
Okay. I have not heard it referred to as a choke point before.
Choke point.
Especially in regards to surveys. I thought that I was a little concerned.
Yeah, so I started talking about, ads, since no one mentioned it, I did go get a haircut this week. And was talking to the stylist, and she says, yeah, we're asked to give out these surveys. We expect our clients to do these surveys. And we're supposed to get all 10s on these surveys. And if we don't get all 10s, we get penalized for not getting all 10s.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, there was some, like, let's see. Yeah. There are items in the survey that are outside of their control, such as price and wait times due to low staffing levels. So is it fair to the stylist, or do we look at it more from a macro view of the company itself, right? So
I had something similar on my notes because we have that on the surveys that we send out. So at the top of the survey, there is what's called a top box score. And that's for the metrics, what they want to be like the level 5.
right.
And so as long as that's a 5, any of the detail information, it doesn't matter. It could be 3s, it could be 2s, it could be whatever. As long as that top box scores a 5, that's what they're looking for. So when I'm filling out surveys, I will be very, that's what I kind of look for. I'll look for the top box score. Now for me, I don't fill out surveys unless it's a 5 for that reason. Like I'll avoid, there's one survey where I was skating and it was from Wanderlust, which is kind of like a mindful 5K. They do like 5K, they do yoga, and then they do meditation. And they did it in May of last year. There was no shade. There was one tent. The water that they had was in barrels that was in the sun. It was hot. People were passing out during yoga, and they were saying over the speaker, like, don't worry, the EMTs are coming. While they're like mid-pose. It was horrible.
Like, keep going.
Yes, exactly. And then they were saying, I don't see a lot of they were like basically calling people that I can't. They're like, I see a lot of people, in Shavasana already when they, it was horrible.
Right.
So, I mean, I tore them apart. It was not nice. But when it comes to the surveys, one of our vendors had one that was really quick and easy, and it was like press one button, and I would always do that one. I'm more likely to fill them out. I'm more likely to fill them out if I'm snippy. Like if I'm like being rude, I'm like, oh man, you know what? I probably came across really bad. So I'm going to like give them high marks. Or if I'm bored, like if I'm getting my tires rotated, I'm like, time to do some surveys, and I'll fill them out.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I don't like people, I know how surveys are used. I know how they've impacted me as an employee. So I'm not necessarily really keen on filling them out unless they're going to have a positive impact on someone.
Yeah. I kind of said the same. I could have said, I'm not like one that, I don't know, like I'm not going to like, oh yeah, let me fill out a survey. Like if somebody asks, I'll be like, sure, but I'm not going to be like, but I feel like I'm more likely to fill them out if I'm like really happy. Like, okay, using an example, like a store or something that asks you to fill them out. If I'm like, wow, like they had great customer service, like this was a great experience, then I'm like, yeah, like I feel like they deserve, a well scoring survey that shows that they did a good job. Or as you said, Laura, like if I'm like, if I had a terrible experience, I'm like, yeah, they definitely need to know like that they need to change something, obviously, so I feel like if I'm like in the middle, like, oh, that was okay, like I'm less likely to do a survey because I'm like, and then I had an example. So I used to work at a Pottery Barn outlet store, and we
I
had
can't wait to hear the story.
well, so we had goals of like, they had customer surveys, and we had goals, like we had to get however many per day. And it's like, just like an example of how they can be used. It's like, I mean, they didn't affect us directly, because like I think they would just like pretty much go to corporate. Like we would have them fill them out on the iPad, like on an iPad, and it would just like be sent in. Like sometimes we wouldn't even see the results. So it wasn't necessarily like directly affecting us, but like from the employee's point of view, like we would only ask people to do surveys if they were like a super nice customer who was like satisfied. Do you know what I mean? Like we weren't going to ask them, the angry customer, to fill out a survey. So it's kind of like, was it really accurate? Like all we were doing is getting our goal of surveys, and like we obviously like weren't going to ask people who were upset to fill out surveys. So I'm like, were they even helpful or useful? Probably not. Or accurate even? Probably not. There was a mad angry customer, and I remember one of the guys, like he wasn't working with her, and so she came up to check out, and I don't know exactly what happened because I wasn't working with her, but she was just upset about something that happened. And she gets up to the front and he's like, "Oh, would you like to fill out a survey?" And we're all just like, no. Like we don't know what she put, but I'm sure she just had
everyone's face just fell.
But yeah, we were just like, stop, no, but he didn't know. So because we're just like kind of trained to just ask every few customers to do a survey, so we meet our goal. But it's just funny. So I think that's kind of an example of how, I don't know, they can't necessarily be used. I don't think it's fair to, if they be used 100%, to like, you have to get all 10s or else you get penalized. Like, I don't know. I think they can be useful, but I think that's one example of how they can not be accurate at all.
Yeah, I think that's interesting what Fred brought up about the certain things being out of their control. I had a client of mine fill out a survey in reverse. So it came back totally dissatisfied on every point.
Oh.
And there was a note on the top of it, and it was for management, and it was basically like, I shouldn't be doing what I was doing because they filled it out wrong. And they were like really good clients of mine. They came in like every couple months to book like all these trips. So it wasn't like they weren't coming back, but it just the way they filled out the survey. So it's how valuable are the results?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I put on one of these questions that I believe the surveys would be fair if the measurement provided were to be viewed with a contextual lens. So there's a saying that we have in our organization that one bad piece of feedback outweighs 100 pieces of positive feedback. And when we do a lot of post-course evaluations. So my team, we develop a lot of e-learning courses for 300,000 employees, right? So each one of those courses has a feedback evaluation attached to it. So you're done with the course. Hey, how was the course? Was it designed right? Did you enjoy the content, the interactions, the knowledge checks, blah, blah, blah. And you could have 275,000 people say, yes, the course was great. Yeah, 4 people to say the course was horrible. Guess what you're going to hear about?
Yeah.
So that's why I have very strong feelings about surveys, because we live and die, and our bonuses are based off of our surveys.
Yeah. I kind of like on the question where it's like, what is your rule of thumb when you're applying, like when you're filling surveys out? And do you attempt to be fair? Do you prefer to be cruel? Like, I don't know why anybody would prefer to be cruel, but okay. But I just put like, I try to be fairly generous, like when I do fill out a survey, because I think of those things, like this person is getting, probably getting yelled at by their boss or whatever if this comes back negative. So if I think they did a good job, they're doing their job or whatever, I'm going to give them, good scores. I'm not going to be like, well, they didn't go above and beyond, so I'm going to give them a 2, like that doesn't, I think I try to be fair, obviously, not just like, I'm going to give all 5s just for no reason. But I think I've definitely tried to be generous, not cruel with them.
I try to do, if there's comments, I will totally take advantage of the comments. I will, I'm more likely to mark it as a 5 and then complain in the comments, because that way they're getting what they need to fix any issues, but they're not being marked down on the score. But sometimes they don't have comments, and that's not an option. Another thing that I'll do in the comments is, like, if somebody's having problems with something and their supervisor or manager helps out, I'll always mention the support that they got in the surveys as well, just so that they have feedback that whoever was needing assistance, that management is stepping in and helping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually expand on that just a little bit, and I try to remain objective. But if the service is going to result in a poor review, I look to provide feedback immediately to on-site management. You know, so no, never.
Oh, no. I had a really bad experience as a child where my aunt was asking for a manager at Pizza Hut, and I wanted to crawl under the table. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm not that guy that's there with the club saying, hey, you know what, let me speak with the manager, but
oh God, no.
It's usually like a casual conversation, you know, so
no.
If I catch them coming out into the lobby, or, you know, if they're walking around the floor somewhere, hey, are you a leader here? Hey, I just want to let you know, I saw this going on here. You know, I don't want to cause problems, and then maybe something you want to address.
I'm more likely to do it if somebody's doing a really good job. I'll ask to speak to their supervisor and tell them that their employee is doing a good job. But like when I'm complaining, I can't.
Yeah.
But remember, feedback is a gift.
Yes.
I think, like, how can you be 100% objective? I mean, nobody is unbiased, honestly. You know, like, I feel like that's kind of a hard question. Are you objective or fair, or are they the same thing? It's like, I don't know. Like, describe fair. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of I don't know.
Here's an interesting thing that happened at my work. This is like years and years ago. They had somebody secret shop on one of our stores. Well, several stores. And the person came out and they were like, no, service is great. They did this, they did that. They were so friendly. They were so helpful. And the people at our corporate headquarters were like, well, did they offer to upgrade you? Did they offer you our credit card? Did they offer you this? And because they didn't do those set things, it went from, like, he thought it was great customer service, but because those things weren't checked in the box, the employees got into like a whole bunch of trouble. Yeah. So that's
horrible.
it was horrible. So, but it's always that kind of, and it seems to kind of discredit the trust, you know, like building relationships and building responsibility. It's like, how can you trust someone that you feel is criticizing you because you're not offering a credit card application?
Yeah. And do you think to the secret shopper, you know, if you were pushing like, oh, you should really get our credit card, you know, we have a credit card, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that they would have been happy with their customer service experience?
Yeah.
Like, they probably would have been like, well, you know, it was fine, but they were a little pushy with the credit card. Like, that's not what people think is good customer service. You know what I mean? If that, I don't know. I can totally relate, because I worked in retail at a clothing store once, and they just like micromanage like every single thing. And it's like, we're sales associates, like getting paid minimum wage at a clothing store, you know? And it was very like, they would watch the cameras and like watch us, and then they would like give us, like, they would like come talk to us like, oh, well, I saw that you didn't approach this person as soon as they came into the store, you know, you need to like, and it was never like positive feedback. It was always like what you need to do to be better. And I'm just like, okay, but like people don't want you attacking them when they walk into a store. Like, I'm going to say, hi, how are you? But I'm not going to, they wanted you to have a whole conversation. And I'm like, people are here to shop. Like, they're going to leave if I'm just like standing right there next to them. And it was a small store. So like, there was hardly everybody in there too. It was like not busy. So this is so like, I just hated it. I'm so glad I'm not there anymore, but I can totally relate. It's like, I feel like I was being watched the entire time because I was like, and it was just like, you can't micromanage people like that, you know, like, yeah. So I could totally relate.
Yeah, I think for fairness and being objective, I actually put it's the difference between objectivity and subjectivity, right? So fairness to me, you're being very subjective in your analysis or your survey response versus being objective. Objectivity is taking emotion out of it and looking at it for the context of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got on my political soapbox with my last sentence, and I said, unfortunately, splitting between subjective and objective lenses takes a level of maturity not often seen in a society stooped in a mentality of instant gratification.
Speaking of instant gratification, are you guys more likely to fill out surveys if they offer you something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're in it for the spiff?
I'm in it for the swag.
I'm honestly like, when they hand me the receipt and they're like, there's a survey at the bottom, you could win, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Like, I'm probably not going to do it. I don't think it makes sense. I don't know. Unless it's like $100. I don't know. You know, if it's like a chance to win something, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to win.
Yeah, I get my prescriptions filled at Fry's, and there's like one pharmacy tech who cracks me up all the time. And it's like he just is seriously like, he feels like my friend that works there, even though, I mean, I don't even know the guy's name, but like I always do. I should know his name. I fill out enough surveys for him, but I'm calling Rachel Courtney all the time. So we'll call him Courtney too. But yeah, so I'll usually fill them out for him. But yeah. I mean, I don't care about the gas points. It's just, if I have that connection with somebody, I'm more likely to do it. It's not necessarily about what's involved.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is what, week 5? We have two more of these?
I think so.
Yeah, 6 and 7.
So here's the $1,000 question, and then we'll call it a wrap. Are we still going to talk after all this is over?
Not every week, but yeah, we can check in from time to time.
Right.
I might be learning my new job.
Speaking of which, can you email me a copy of your resume?
Yeah. Yes, I can. I'm like, where did I store that? Yeah, I have it on the cloud drive. I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, we have a couple openings. A couple of them are project leaders.
Really?
Yep.
All right, but if you get like some incentive, you know, you have to get me an Amazon card. No, I'm totally kidding, Fred.
If I get some type of incentive, I'll split it with you.
No, you're like, yeah, you get an incentive, you get a new job. That's what you get.
And the ability to work from home.
Yes.
So.
All right. Are we all set?
We are. We actually went over. I think without my glasses, it looks like we're at 108. So same as always, I'll post it up to YouTube and email out the link.
Awesome discussion, guys.
Yeah, as always.
Yay. All right. See you next week.
All right. Take care.
Bye.